Okay, we'll get started.
What we do each discuss.
So I'm Scott Sayre. I'm from the Corning Museum of Glass, and I'm just given the honor to chair this great session. It's so interesting because I didn't was assigned to this, but these are two areas that I'm really, really interested in and have done work in. So I'm as excited as hopefully you are to be here. So this is going to be, excuse me. First of all, it's a recorded session. I had to start it that way. So if you guys could all speak into the mics, that would be great. And if you guys have questions, we'll want people to repeat questions so they get recorded. So the session is broken into two half-hour sessions. The first half hour is going to be all of Alyssa, who's going to be talking about the LMS that they have been implementing at Crystal Bridges. And then we'll roll into the second session, which will be about primary source materials. So just a little bit about Alyssa. She's the guide program manager at Crystal Bridges Museum of Art. She manages the public tour program at the museum, and she's the lead educator working directly with the dedicated group of 90 volunteer tour guides who offer art, nature, architecture tours for the museum. So let's take it away.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Is the mic good enough? Okay. So welcome everybody. I feel like I need to do some jumping jacks to get energized for the session. But I welcome everybody, and I hope you enjoy what we have to talk about. So before I get started, has anybody been to Crystal Bridges in Arkansas? Great, that's more than I thought. It's in Bentonville, Arkansas, which you may have heard of because it's the headquarters of Walmart. But the museum is separate from that, and we have an American art collection that spans from colonial as to contemporary artists. So it's a fun place to work, I think, and I hope you visit sometime too. We also have great architecture programs, and we have 4 miles of trails that surround the museum, so we have trail programs as well. So before I go any further, I thought it was pertinent for me to explain what the guide program is, because people talk about tour guides and they define it different ways. Our guide program is it's under the education wing, so you can see here I'm under the director of education. We also have public programs, visitor research, and school access and partnership programs. So you'll notice that school programs is separate from the guide program. It's our sister department, but school programs actually has paid educators, and we have the pleasure of working with some amazing volunteers, and we work together as sister programs like that. So this is the guide program. There are 2 paid staff, myself and Allie Brett, who is our fantastic educator. We have gallery guides who give tours of our art collection. We have architecture guides who tell the story of the museum and the site, as well as trail guides who are ambassadors of the grounds, offering nature-based tours, but also sculpture tours. And Bachman Wilson House guides, which is our newest group, and these are Frank Lloyd Wright guides. We actually have a Frank Lloyd Wright house that was moved from Millstone, New Jersey, piece by piece. It was in a flood zone, and it's been rebuilt on the site and opened in October of 2015. So that's our newest group of guides. So why did we want an LMS, a learning management system? We were drowning in paper, literally. When I started about 4 years ago, there were guides, and they would tell you they had 4 or 5 3-inch binders at home trying to amass all the paper that we had handed out. Not only in candidate training, so when they began before they're an active guide, they got a 3-inch binder. But as they came to monthly trainings and as we changed the tours, 4 years ago, we only had trail guides and gallery guides. If you know, it's a young museum, so we're just approaching our 5th anniversary. So at that point, we just had 2 groups of guides, and they were already just snowed in with the amount of paper and trying to keep up with what was accurate. So what's the most up-to-date tour route? It's been changed 5 times, I can't figure it out. So we knew right away that we had to develop a better system, because every time we thought we had the best printed version, something would change and we had to release another printed version. But I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what an LMS was, to be perfectly honest. I'd never heard of it. So my first idea was just, I need a content database, give me a blog, I'll do something with it. So I went to our media team and said, what would you recommend? He gave me some options, but there wasn't anything that really sunk in as this is what's good for us, because I had two things. I wanted content to be stored there, and I also wanted something that was easy to use, because I was going to be the one developing it, and also because our volunteers are retiree age for the most part. And so we needed something that they felt comfortable using on a regular basis and really helped feed their needs. So actually, my director, Ann Craybill, who's the director of education now, told me about Haiku learning. So that's the learning management system that we went with. It's now owned by PowerSchool. That's a very recent thing, but they still have the Haiku links, so they're kind of working it out, but it's the same Haiku system that we started with. So I'll refer to it as Haiku if you don't mind, because that's the term I like to use. But Haiku is incredibly, I think as you'll see, easy to use and easy to build as an educator, and easy for volunteers to access, which was the most important thing. And something that was really surprising to us, and we'll talk about a little later, is not only was it great for content, but it started to be a place that generated community within the volunteer program, which was really, really cool. So we'll talk a little more about that later. So the question is, oh, there we go. Hello. Is that too loud? All right. Stay tuned. Okay, so the question is, are they using it? We have some class activity summaries here so that you can see the class usage as well as the guide usage, the individual usage. It doesn't look too scary, there's not too, but it does demonstrate that they are using this on a regular basis as a class. The Bachman-Wilson House Guide program actually uses the program the most. They have 109 hours booked this year. And then I wanted to show off Mary Myers because she's amazing, and she's spent more 24/7 hours or more on the system to date. And this is just when they're on the system actively using it, when they're prepping for tours, maybe they print out their content, they don't always stay online, but this is their usage online. So let's check it out. All right, so I'm not going to do a live walkthrough because it kind of made the people I practice for dizzy. But so that you can look later, I'm going to pass out these cards. And you'll notice on the back, it's on the front, it's shameless endorsement, so if you want to contact me, contact me. On the back, you'll see it's our learning management system so that you can actually go and play on your own after the session if you want to. It has the link and the password. It will be open until November 17th, so definitely go check it out if you want. And it's what they call a parent site, because this was a site that was built for K through 12. So it's a view-only thing. So don't try to, mess around with anything. But I hope you enjoy playing with it on your own. So here's the welcome page. And we're starting with the Bachman-Wilson House Guide program because they're our newest program, and they're the program that we started this LMS with. This is the Frank Lloyd Wright group. They started training in May of 2015, and that's when we kicked off Haiku usage as well. The Bachman-Wilson House group was a new group of about 36 volunteers. Most of them had never been volunteers before, never been guides before, so it was a great group to try something out with and see if it worked, and if it didn't, we could change or tweak or remove and do something else. So we piloted it with them. When they started, it was before they were active guides, so they were going through a content intensive. We tried a new model of training with this group. Instead of doing a year-long or half-year-long training several days a month, we decided to do an intersession model. If you've ever been in college, they have intersession courses in between the regular semesters. And so we did an intensive for content and an intensive for tours. So that's why you'll see a 6-day session here for the content intensive. And at that time, it was organized by day. Now you can see it's organized by subject because it's a little easier to find things. But it was organized by day, and they would click on the site to see what was going on. We would have the agenda there, which is not there anymore, but you'll see after training, we would pair the audio recording, which we had done, with the PowerPoint, and they can hit play right here and go for it, rewatch the session, or if they missed it, they can also catch up that way. That's a close-up. We also did assignments this way, so you can, there's apps that you use within Haiku, and one of them is for YouTube or Vimeo, so you can put the videos right on the site. It's really clean. And so they can play it right there. They can also leave the site and come back to it. But this was one of the required videos they had to watch, and also required readings. You'll see right below that. This was an article about the architect that built Crystal Bridges, and they can download and save to their computers. So we also we didn't expect to use the discussion and exam features because, like I said, this is a K through 12, so it's built for grades, and we don't want to give anybody an A or a B. People get mad when you do that. So, but we did find that the discussion groups were really, really useful, and this is where the community started to grow within Guide to Guide conversation. So one of the assignments was they had to research other Frank Lloyd Wright projects and write a short, basically a discussion thing, a blog thing about 3 different sites, projects that Frank Lloyd Wright did during his lifetime. And so you'll see Carol Carlson's submission here. She included photos. You can layer in photos, you can layer in links, you can layer in videos. It's really cool and easy to use, and they adapted to it right away. And then also one of the assignments was to respond with a question or something about they wanted to know more about these projects to their fellow guides. And they did that, but they also started just commenting for fun. Like Kelly Johnston writes, I really enjoyed reading your comparisons, Carla. Nice picks, and the Frobel quote gives us some additional insight. So they started responding this way, and you can see Carla's responding back to him, and so conversations started to start, and that was really unexpected and really, really cool. So then after the candidate training, they all graduated, yay. We started giving tours in the house. The house opened as planned. It was great. But Haiku was still part of the program, and so we started developing the site and adding more links and things for people to access, and you can explore all of them. I'm only going to highlight a couple. The first is the tour route. So we wanted something that was really easy to access, top thing on the grid, and they can download it direct and print it very easily. They can also look at it on their iPad if they have the app, or they can look at it on their computer, of course. And then ongoing training. So after we did the candidate training, they don't get to quit us. We have to come for ongoing trainings once a month to every other month. Bachman-Wilson House Guides come every other month because there's only one tour of the house. But so we also started putting all of that information on there. So usually it's a lecture style, or it's in the house, like tour training, guide to educator. And this training was kind of fun, so I used it. We did Jeopardy with them. We even had a freaking awesome Jeopardy PowerPoint, I will say, with music and everything. But you can see me here and our educator here, and Dylan Turk is our curator that helps with a lot of the guide trainings. So we had an interactive session, but we used Haiku to document the questions and answers that were used in Jeopardy, because even if you video or audio record it and pair it, people don't watch the whole thing. So it's really great to have a text backup where you can find just the one thing you're looking for really quickly. So then also organized by subject. This has been the hardest thing with Haiku, and is probably the thing that I like the least about it. There is no search thing, so you can't just type in Bachman-Wilson House and pull up a bunch of links. So as educators, we had to get creative about sorting things by subject so that they could hopefully find things quickly. This is something that we'll keep looking at and keep trying to make better, and hopefully Haiku will build us a search thing eventually. But so for instance, if a guide had a question about they wanted to see a video that the last family that lived in the Bachman-Wilson house created a walkthrough of when they lived in it in New Jersey, they could go to Bachman-Wilson house there on the screen and then select the Tarantino family, and it would take them to all of the resources we have about the Tarantinos, including the walkthrough of the house, and they can watch it right on the screen. And then back pocket information. Back pocket information is additional information. So if they talked about everything about the house, they would keep the guests there for 3 hours, and we don't want that necessarily. So these were generated from questions, mostly from guests. So guides couldn't answer them, so they would bring them to us. And we noticed that we were getting duplicate questions from guides and weren't able to share it out with everybody. So this is where all of that information lives. We'll talk about how the guides give us the questions in a little while, but after we got to so many questions and answers, we put it into back pocket information that's also organized by subject area. So if you want to know how they poured the concrete at our site, you can go to deconstruction, reconstruction. You can see how the concrete was poured. You can read an article about it. You can also watch a video of deconstructing the house. Oh, and if you're interested in why the screws aren't lined up, you can learn that too. Okay, so while all this was happening, volunteers talked to each other, right? And so the gallery guides and the trail guides started coming to us and saying, why don't we have a haiku? I want to know what this is, and why are you gypping us? So after we found that it was really, really good for the Bachman Wilson House guides, we really realized really quickly that we had to do this for the other guide programs as well. So by the end of 2015, we had the gallery guide site up, and by January of 2016, we had the trail guide site up. So here's some favorites from those sites as well, and they're classified as classes, so you access guides who are multiple classes, have multiple classes here, because we do have some that are both different types of guides. And then if you're only in one class, you only see the one class that you're in up there. So, okay. So the biggest thing with guides is routes, because we have multiple art-based tours. And our curators love to take things down and conserve them and to let things go out on loan and share them with the world, which is wonderful. But it means that we have to change our tours pretty regularly, which is pretty normal for museums. And so this is a way where you can go at 2 a.m., you have a tour tomorrow, you can log in the system, you don't have to bother Allie and Alyssa. You can just go in and see the tours for the particular one. This is collection highlights. You can see the images if you want, which is mostly good for new guides. Current guides should know the works. And then you can click on the hyperlink. So the orange text is actually a hyperlink, and it'll take you to our one-pager that we have for each work. We have presentations about this, we give them articles, but we also have one-pagers that put things in bullets really simple. And on the back, you'll see we have photographs that accompany the text on the front and links so that they can use these documents as a launching pad to ignite their research. So there's a YouTube video here on Tom Utech. There's resources in our library they can go and look at. And there's also other websites that we've deemed as curator-approved embedded. And then special exhibitions. Special exhibitions come to Crystal Bridges quarterly. They're a lot of fun. We're able to dive into areas that we don't have in the collection, but it's also a huge learning curve for the guides that offer these tours. And Haiku has been amazing to deposit all that information and leave it there for them. So here's American Made, which just closed recently in September, and we had 2 tours for that. So again, the content is hyperlinked per object. We have images of the objects. We have a map of the gallery so they can see where those words are. And we have additional resources here as the bottom as well as the PowerPoint where the curator talked to the guides. And trail guides, they're probably our most flexible group because Mother Nature doesn't really go by my bidding. She kind of kills things off when she wants to. So trail guides have to know a ton of information for our nature-based tour. This is our summer bloom, so you'll see tons of images for identification. The route is actually there and hyperlinked. There's also a printable version. These are notes from a training. I'll go through this quickly. And then we also have embedded Google custom maps on there for identification purposes, so they can pull this up on their iPad and actually see. So the tulip poplar is right by the South Lobby entrance right there. So it's really helpful on the ground. And then also PowerPoints as well from training. And then this is the exciting part, the community aspect. So you can see here, this is where the back pocket information came from. There's over 300, 400 posts in here to date. And it's a huge file full of conversations, questions, concerns, funny things. This Pat Chuba is trying to get her fellow guides to buy a replica of the lamp that's in the house. You can buy it from Taliesin for over $1,000. You can also see this is Lowell Collins, one of our fabulous guides, who actually had a guest faint out by the house during one of the August tours. And so this was concerns about that, what she did, what a plan could be, and she had guides comment on it with their stories, as well as I was able to chime in and say, great, this is awesome, you did just right, and for further tours, this is what we're going to do. We had articles we share this way, as well as photographs. This is by Tim Crane. And questions, which is what it was actually built for. So this is 2 questions, and actually guides add other questions throughout this thread. But one of them is, did the Wilsons have a dog? Which is very important. So we answered that, and we can send them on to our curator to answer and all of this kind of stuff. And on top of that, our guides don't stay at home. They like to travel. I wish I could travel as much as they do. So we developed a photo journal place where they can deposit all their photos, talk about the tours they went on, and share those experiences with their fellow guides. So here's Pat and John Chuba, who are both guides at Taliesin. And, you know, the funny thing about this is when I started this program, I thought my job was to simply educate guides, make sure they had the information they need to individually give tours. But the more and more I do my job, I realize that it's also about building a team that fosters strength and mentoring between guides and between educators. And so the Haiku has been one way that we're able to do that. And they can do it themselves. They have the agency to ask the questions, to answer the questions on their own. It feels empowering, and it's been a wonderful step for our program. So, questions? Yes.
So this is all new to me, as I said, it's not my area, but watching this, it occurred to me that the platform that you have here and all the content you've built, it seems a step away from a public online learning opportunity, like without much modification. Is there any consideration, or are other museums, has anyone done that, where they've opened up this material to let motivated learners come in and
So the question is, could this be like a public platform? Could it be for the public as well? And we would love that. Unfortunately, our museum isn't there yet. Is there someone in the back?
Well, I think that you chose Haiku because it was being used by the Museum of Modern Art. And they do use that very same platform to teach online courses. Not the MOOCs, obviously, those are in Coursera, but the other ones that are available for fee, which I think are available through the bookstore under the category book. So that very platform has been used very successfully.
Yeah, I know we have licenses, so there is that, and I'm sure there's a workaround for that, but each guide has an individual license for tracking purposes. But we do use, like educators use an education login and access it that way. So yeah.
How do you have data on how many people, or how people are logging in, or how many times they're spending with it? How do you use that data?
We don't use it a whole lot now, other than to track that people are getting in there. So if we have complaints about the system, we can go in and see if they've ever actually tried to access it. And honestly, that doesn't happen very often, 1 or 2 cases to be exact. But we also use it so you can see if you have an assignment and you want to make sure everybody's read it, you can see what users have clicked to that page and how long they spent there. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about, especially knowing how you described your guides as far as where they are in life, how easy it was for them to onboard and use this, and how how much resistance you find to it?
So the question is a great question. How much resistance because of an age group for this? And the answer is none. They adapted to it so quickly. I was so surprised. I expected to have to be on call for 24 hours after we introduced the system to just get them comfortable with it. They love it. They access it all the time. We have a couple who just don't like computers, but as part of their job description, when they become a guide, they have to say that they're able to use a computer, able to answer email, and work on sites. And so that's part of it. But also, I think it's to Haiku. It's incredibly easy to use and seems to be intuitive for them. So.
Because Haiku is 4K-12, do you feel like it meets your needs? In what ways? It sounds like there's no search, but other ways you're a museum and not K-12, so how does it fall short of what you need it to do?
It falls short mostly in the searchable nature. There's limitations for that, like that really stinks. And we don't use any of the grading systems, so we don't use that part of the system at all. But it really meets our needs amazingly well. I was really, really surprised at just how great it is. I don't think Haiku thought that we would use it in this way, but it seems to be really effective for our use. Yeah. One more question?
Getting back to your original question,
Sorry.
have you had those discussions of would we want to share this content out to the public? One of the biggest challenges we had, because we're going to be doing that, and it was issues of voice and authority, and do we want the docents representing the museum? Have you had those discussions with content that is really...
So it is...
Because we have a lot of docent-generated resources as well, and we've had to build in tools that allow the author of the content to decide who they want to share that content with.
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of docent-generated research, actually, because we have a staff that works so closely with them. We're not to that point yet. That doesn't mean that it won't start happening, and it is starting in little bits, and I'll answer this quickly because I know we're over time. But it's a question of branding mostly. So we haven't branded any of the stuff that you saw on there, and so our communications department would have problems with it going live. And so that's the biggest hurdle of getting it live. It's not necessarily the voice, but it's the branding. So yeah, great. Thank you so much.